Welcome to the Burrow's Badass Podcast. This is Scott Cragg, your host, along with Josh Nowlin. And this is our inaugural event. So we want to welcome you guys aboard. And we thought that we would bring to you a little bit of what you got from the NFBA. And Josh was able to be there, and we had a great representation from the Burrow's team. And so just we want to make these podcasts for you something that's informational, a little bit of fun involved, may tell some stupid dad jokes, just something to kind of lighten your day and break things up. But the format for these is about 20 to 25 minutes and try to give you some real useful, real-time information to go out with your day. So, Josh, welcome aboard.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, this is really exciting. I'm so excited about this and offering this information to our listeners, and talking all things NFBA today here. The NFBA is our industry association. Once a year, they do a show. It travels around to different cities. This year, we were in Knoxville, Tennessee. Of course, Burrow's exhibiting there. Like you said, we had good representation from Burrow's. We had some clients there we saw, and it was a good show. One of the things that they always start each year out with is the annual business meeting. And, once that boring stuff's complete, then we usually have a keynote speaker. And, I wanted to share with our people, our listeners, that this year's keynote was really, really amazing. Guy by the name of Rulon Gardner. Have you ever heard of that person, Scott? Putting you on the spot here.
I think I have. I think I have.
Rulon was an Olympic gold medalist. He was a wrestler, and he's Olympic gold medalist. In the year 2000, Rulon went up against this guy who was just a Goliath. Alexander Karelin from Russia. He's just this giant Russian, never beaten his entire career. And Rulon was able to win that match and take a gold medal. And he tells his whole story in the keynote. It was just amazing. Kind of David and Goliath type story about his upbringing and growing up on a farm in Wyoming and how the hard work that he had to do, it's a great story. You can look him up online. He does have a couple of books. But it was a great way to start off the show, Scott. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, you're explaining that. It makes me think of, what was it, Rocky IV? The U.S. faces the Russian. But I think I've seen pictures of him. He wasn't any Ivan Drago. He's a big old guy.
Yeah, definitely. And his story is just so inspirational. And there's a couple good YouTube videos out there if you look him up. His name's Rulon Gardner. So so that was a great kickoff to the show.
Yeah. So with that in mind, that sets a great visual for how the show got started off. But so if you were to take the 2 or 3 days that you were there, what's that one main takeaway from the event? And again, so I'm trusting all of our listeners know we've been using the acronym NFBA, National Frame Builders Association. But what was like your main takeaway from the event?
It's hard to narrow that down just to one. I can say that the show was big this year. I mean, there was, I think, around 185 exhibitors. One of the biggest show floors ever. So tons and tons of exhibitors. And I think, if I try to narrow it down, I'll give you a broad answer, and that's just understanding the overall importance of the National Frame Builders Association and the expo and what it means to our industry, what it means to Burroughs, what it means to our clients, our builders. When you're there, there's just something about it, the products, the vendors, the camaraderie, the networking, and maybe most important of all, the education that you get while you're there. It's really, really something special.
Yeah. So, I haven't personally been to the NFBA. I look forward to doing that next year. So you mentioned that there were a lot of vendors, exhibitors at the NFBA. So what about products? What were some exciting or innovative things that caught your eye? Something that if maybe our listeners had been there, they would have been like, "Oh man, that's really really cool."
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of maybe a couple of my favorite tools and a couple of my favorite products. Again, with 185 to choose from, it's hard to narrow that down. But from a tool standpoint, Boss hammers. If you haven't checked out the Boss hammers, you need to check out the Boss hammers. They do these hammers. I mean, you can use it as a speed square. It's got the end of it's magnetic, so you can literally pick up a Tyvek nail and hammer it in, and it just
Oh,
has
that's
all these
nice.
really, yeah, it's got cool
No
features.
more, no more bloody, blood blistered fingernails, right? Like trying to drive in a nail. Man, I hate those things, especially when it's cold outside. Oh my gosh, that was one of the things I hated whenever I was in construction. Was cold weather and a misplaced hammer on a nail head. Like it really
Yeah,
makes you second guess your career choice.
I've had a few bloody thumb tips in my time as well.
Yeah.
Cold Illinois winters, but
Oh yeah. Okay, so the
the
boss.
Boss hammers, I would definitely check that out, and we can get fancy and upload some links or share some additional information about some of these products.
Yeah.
Um, the other product that I thought was really cool, and these aren't brand new. Boss hammers they've been around for a few years,
Hmm.
and Stabila is a company that they do a lot of really specialty like levels and large 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot levels and other leveling tools and um, level that provide level lines on buildings and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's I'm not a salesman for them, so it's hard for me to really probably get how cool it is across, without looking it up and doing some research on your own. Um,
Well,
I
I want to
know that.
interrupt you here for a second. You mentioned the levels. Maybe this is a little nugget that we can pull out of here. I've been to a couple of job sites since I've been with Burrows, and even with when I was at Morton Buildings. And I know for our crews, you're out there, you're trying to get a job done. You do this every single day, so I think some things feel like second nature. But man, one of the things that I would love to recommend our listeners do is have your crews carry a torpedo level in their tool belt. If you kind of get going and you think you've got it, you eyeball it, and if a girt is just out a little bit, man, over the course of that building, it'll catch up with you. Um, I know with my crew at Morton, and then I recommend this to another one of our contractors. Went out, looked at a job site, and got to looking, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, that column looks just a little bit crooked. And it was like the column had been put in a little crooked, and it could have been fixed if we would just popped out a torpedo level and checked that real quick. So sounds like a little thing, but man, really, really important, can save you a lot of time. One of the things that we say around here is, man, you got to slow down to speed up. So
Mhm.
just a little side note there, maybe a nugget of, man, if it takes 3 or 4 seconds to stick a level on a gird or on a column, it can save you a lot of money.
Well, that leads me into the next product, next booth I visited that I'm really excited about, and some of you may have already heard about this. It's called the Rapid Framing System, and those guys had
I
they
don't think I've heard of that, Josh.
uh,
Like I don't.
they Yeah, yeah, they had a really nice booth set up there. And for our listeners that don't know, we are going to be licensing this product here very soon. But the when you're talking about level and girts and columns and things of that nature, when you can set a whole sheet of whole wall system of girts up at once, and then allow them to help you level your building and help you keep everything square, and that's just one of many many benefits of it. But that system just continues to amaze me. um,
Yeah, and I think one of the thoughts around the rapid framing system, and I want to have a disclaimer here. Hear me now. We are working on this. This is in development. We are not ready to just launch this as a mass production, right? Because we are currently using our truss production team and our the gantry and everything out there for our trusses we're using to produce the rapid framing system as we develop this out for you. So while we're giving you a little bit of a teaser here, we'll let you know when this is ready to rock and roll. But another great thing about the rapid framing system is as we in America see this change in relation to labor force, maybe well, there's two things to this. One is a change in labor force, but two, it seems like we have fewer people that know how to build, right? Use a hammer, use a drill. It's so that knowledge base is drying up a little bit. So one of the things, the benefits of the rapid framing system is if we can produce for you these wall panels, and think Legos, right? Like wall section A, wall section B. It's really simple to do. So if you've got a telehandler or a skid steer and you can hang these in place, and then you basically just have a crew member screw them onto the column. So it speeds up the project. Number two, it helps you if you find yourself in one of those quandaries of what do I do about labor force or kind of loss of knowledge as it relates to how to build with where we find ourselves today. I hope that we can walk that back. I hope some of our trade schools will see, hey, there's a huge opportunity here because, man, being able to do carpentry and construction, it's one of those that, yeah, sometimes it's feast and famine, but it is something where if you have the skills and you know how to work and you're honest, you're never going to be out of work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about my feelings on the industry and where the things are going here. But we'll probably have an entire podcast dedicated to rapid framing system when we're ready to roll that out. So
100%. Yeah. So stay
there
tuned,
are so
listeners.
many. That's a good point you made, but there are also, I mean, there's just many other benefits to that system and how it's going to help our people, help our clients, help our industry. One last product I'll bring up, and I just, I want to roll a little safety, and I think safety is a topic we don't talk enough about in our industry. Um, and it's very important. I mean, it's even whether you're in the factory like us or you're out in the field building something, you and your people deserve the right to go home every day and see your family, and nobody wants to make that call, that somebody fell and hit the ground. I've seen it, and it's something that you can never erase from your brain after you see it once.
Right.
So with that being said, there's been over many years, there have been people trying to figure out how to make building post frame safer. And because of the uniqueness of post frame and how you have to set your columns and your girts and then your trusses, but then, you have to build something, then you have fall protection, then you don't. So a product I saw at the show is called Ridgeline Anchors. And it's a product that I'd really like to, at least I'm considering bringing into Burrows to offer to our clients. It is an anchor system that you attach to the trusses before you take them off the ground. Okay. And so when you set the trusses, the anchor system's already at the peak. It's already on there. And you don't have to put one on every truss. On a 30 by 40, you might put two on, so two on a 30 by 40, and they're on there. And then your purlins go inside of a channel and the metal goes inside as well. And the ridge cap goes over the top. So all that's left sticking out of the ridge cap are two little rings, one on each side of the ridge cap. They stay on for the life of the building. And then anybody who ever goes and gets up on that roof has an anchor point to tie down to. And so not only can you offer that during your construction process to keep you and your people safe, but you're giving your client a lifetime of safety if anybody ever has to get up on that roof.
That is so good.
Cost? I'm just going to say it. They're like $55 a piece out the door. So on a 30 by 40, 100, 110 bucks, you're giving your client lifetime of safety on that roof. It's probably one of the coolest products that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And one thing I things I think about it is your reputation, right? So you sell a job to your customer and you're out there and you've got a crew working on that building. Uh, People are going to be looking, are they tied off? Because that's scary. You just mentioned it. I've seen it too. I've seen a workplace injury, and yeah, it happens once and you don't soon forget it. And so, yeah, you roll in $110 into a job, but your customer is watching their building go up and they're seeing safety in place. That's a big deal. It says a lot for you as a company, and it says a lot for how you care for your people. So, man, that's a cool product. I like that.
Yeah, I look forward to sharing more of that with you, Scott. One last thing about the show floor I'll share, because I know we're running out of time already. Couple things I noticed while being on the show floor. One is a company called MetalCoffeeShop. They are a podcasting firm. In fact, the NFBA Foundation that raises money for education, we had a big silent auction and a live auction at this year's show, and I bid on and won a live podcast with MetalCoffeeShop. So we'll be scheduling that here soon, and I would like to maybe include them in some cross promotional podcasting opportunities for Scott. But they were at the show and they did, I think I counted 12 live YouTube videos at the show. So I'd encourage you, if you weren't there, you're listening to this podcast, go to YouTube, look up MetalCoffeeShop, and check out their live interviews at the show. I happen to be one of the 12, so you'll get to see that there as well. The other thing that caught my attention was Kyle Stumpenhorst. If you don't know who he is, he's the owner of RR Buildings out of Northern Illinois. He's a YouTube influencer. I personally in the past have sold buildings from people that said, I saw Kyle's videos, I saw RR Buildings, and they made me want post frame, and that's how I found you. So I think that's pretty interesting. But he did a window and door installation, a full session. I think it was like an hour or an hour and a half on the trade show floor. And so that is also live on YouTube. So I'd encourage you to maybe go to RR Buildings YouTube channel and watch that demonstration to see how he does his door and window installations, because he does a very good job with that. And again, if we can work it out, whenever we share this podcast, if we can also somehow share the links to these, we will definitely do that.
Yeah, as we get more sophisticated, obviously, if you guys are listening or being our first one, maybe a little clunky. Hopefully, we'll get better over time. As with anything, the more practice, the better you get. But yeah, we'll create some show notes. We'll make that available in the future for sure. So, what encouragement would you have for our listeners about the post frame market moving into 2025? I know we started off a little rocky, at least for Burrows. Started off a little bit slow. We had some weather. Obviously, we had 2 ice storms, lots of wind. We had this tariff thing on the backside. We did a webinar about that, kind of talking about tariffs and what we felt like was going to happen. But what was your finger on the pulse from the NFBA as it relates to the post frame market moving through the year 2025?
I think my big takeaway there is that the post frame market is still strong despite the tariffs and the uncertainty in the marketplace regarding that. And I feel personally that the post frame industry and our ability to diversify really creates, that additional stability there for long-term success. If you're a post-frame business or you're a post-frame business owner, like, look, if barn dominiums are hot and you can figure out and learn how to sell barn dominiums, you're going to be successful. If barn dominiums aren't hot, but all of a sudden there's some big farm bill that is a big tax incentive, a write-off for farmers, go sell some 60 by 120s. The farm market will be hot. So there's all these different sectors, but luckily post frame fits really well into most of them. So as long as you know what's hot and you're willing to diversify into that and understand it and build it, I don't see how you're ever going to be, have a bad year, so to speak.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. I think that's good. On the flip side of that, trends are just that. They're trends, right?
mhm,
And so I think it's important to take advantage of a trend, but don't neglect your bread and butter, right?
mhm.
Because barn dominiums, man, it is all the buzz right now. And it's a good market. It's a great trend. I suspect it's going to be something that's going to be around for a while. But if you've not done a lot of barndominiums, or maybe you have and you've learned the lesson that I'm about to tell you, they take a lot more time, right? I mean, you're talking about someone's home. They're going to live in this thing. So you have a customer who's got a much more critical eye than if you're building a shop or a barn for them, right? So planning for that, if you're going to start delving into the barn dominium market, if this is something new to you, and if you've been doing it for a while, hopefully you can, are giving me some thumbs up as you're listening to what I'm saying. Barn dominiums, it's, I would say, it uses 3 times the amount of your time to get those going as it is to go out and and put up a shop or something of that nature. So just again, I think my bent is thinking more about the business side of things. So really planning your business, go after the trend, but don't forget about your bread and butter.
I just think we found another topic for our podcast, Scott, and that is barn dominiums, and the best way to handle the leads that are going to be coming into your business. Because I guarantee you, if you're advertising post frame, if you're out there, you're getting the leads for barndos, and we
Yeah.
have a lot of good information we can share in a future podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we will. That is a great topic. And we'll also, talk about qualifying, because if you're getting a lot of leads, people calling, hitting your web pages, you want to do a good job of returning, getting back in touch. It helps build your brand, build your name, by getting back in touch with people. But how do you qualify those, right? How do we weed out the ones that maybe aren't in my wheelhouse? Not to say that every person that's interested isn't valuable, but every person that interested may not be your client. So 100%, we'll get that talked about as well. Well, we're going to wrap this up by, asking this final question. Josh, from what you're seeing, where you sit right now today on Wednesday the 16th, what would you say are some watch outs for our listeners?
I'm going to give you a lot of peer pressure here, and I'm going to tell you to go ahead and protect your margin.
Mm,
Why? Because everybody's doing it.
yeah.
So if you're not doing it, you should be. And what I mean by that is everybody, unless you're completely living under a rock, there's volatility in this marketplace today. And with that being said, protect your margin, pad your quotes, make sure you're protected for those price increases that could come down the pipe. And I'll just
Yeah.
leave it with that. I'm just going to
Okay.
end that with that.
Okay. And
No
what
peer
I'm going to
pressure.
say, Yeah. And what I'm going to say in addition to that, right, is, as a company for Burrows, we try to get information out as quick as we can. And here's the thing. I understand it. Email, oh my gosh, I've probably got 18,000 emails in my Gmail account, right? At some point, you're just like, I can't check them all. And so maybe you stop checking your email. So we do send out emails. We have a marketing firm that does that. They manage that for us. So if you're like me and you don't check your email as much as you used to, I'm going to ask you to earmark Burrows. Like, go back and look in your archive. Go back and look at emails maybe in the past that came from us, and set Burrows as a favorite in your email inbox. Because what I don't want any one of our listeners to do is miss out on some important communications about pricing or product or a recall or something like that. So check your email. We're going to look at trying to figure out how to do some gentle texting, because the last thing we want to do is rack up your phone bill, right, with text message charges. And then I won't say first, this podcast, right? We know you're busy. You're out there building, you're following up on leads, you're calling customers, you're really, really busy. And it seems like right now the best way to get information out is in a podcast, right? You're in your car, you're on the job site, throw in a podcast. So right now we're looking at doing these podcasts every other week. That could change. That could be every week, right? I think there's plenty of information to talk about, to bring to you guys. But again, we want to measure it. We don't want to become just another overloaded thing of content that you quickly start to ignore because you're being constantly inundated by content. So that's our purpose here. Keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it fun, bring you valuable information. Your feedback to us is helpful. So, man, give us a call, send us an email, come see us, right? Sit down and say, hey, I've got some ideas for you. Because ultimately, this is about you. We want to help you as a business owner be successful, be profitable, because when you are, so are we, right? It's a symbiotic relationship, and we want to do everything we can to make that a benefit, a win-win for both of us. So thank you guys for listening to our inaugural Badass podcast. Hope that doesn't offend anyone, but hey, when you've got a muscled up donkey as your logo, you got to run with it. See you guys next time.